Weekly Spooky is brought to you by our generous supporters on Patreon. Get access to exclusive podcasts, videos, and more for as little as $1 a month when you go to WeeklySpooky.com and click on the Patreon link. Your support has gotten us to 100 episodes, so join up today and help us create another 100 and beyond. Head over to WeeklySpooky.com and join the Patreon.
There's a chill in the air. Must be fall. Join me for a tale of Halloween. You will experience tales of horror, ghosts, and death. It is not recommended for the weak at heart. Listen in the dark. It's more fun that way. This is Weekly Spooky.
My friends, hello and welcome. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for a little spooky in your weekly. I am, of course, your host and narrator, Henry Kuto, and when things are great, why wait? So we're starting our month-long Halloween stories a week early. So you're going to get 6, count 'em, 6 terrifying tales of Halloween every single week leading up to our Halloween episode. So you'll get an extra episode on Halloween as well, because that's the way we roll. And because Halloween Day is the anniversary of the beginning of the program. And I know there are many of you out there who are brand new to the show. Thank you so much for joining us, for letting us be a part of your Halloween festivities, of helping you get those chills and thrills that we all so desperately want this time of year. Please, if you have a moment, give us a rating on your favorite podcast app. Click that subscribe button. Help us bring you spooky on the weekly for another 2 years, 3 years, beyond. Because we're over 100 episodes in, and frankly, I think I might be too dumb to die. So anyway, my friends, let's get ourselves in the Halloween mode. Because there's a meme on the internet, I'm sure you've seen it before, where somebody's about to say something and then another person puts their hand over their mouth and says, "Shh, let people enjoy things." Well, that's what this story is about. This story is about thinking you're better than the fun of the season, thinking you're better than what the masses may enjoy, and how, well, you might be right or you might be dangerously wrong. So give this story a listen, and afterward I'll be here to talk to you a little bit more. But for now, let's kick back, turn down the lights, unless you're driving, and listen to the story. Pumpkin Spice and Nothing Nice by Charles Campbell. 7:00 a.m., October 31st. Amber Hannah sighed in frustration as she impatiently waited in line at Frankie's Donuts, a line that was threatening to spill outside the front door. By her count, she was in spot 8, and so far, every single person has ordered a pumpkin spice latte or pumpkin spice donuts or both. Amber was so over the fall season. She just wanted her caramel cappuccino and glazed donut before heading into the office. Everything was pumpkin spice, from candles to fucking Clorox. No shit. She saw pumpkin spice Clorox in the grocery store the day before. She dreaded the 3-block walk to her office because as soon as she arrives, Amber knows the place will smell of pumpkin spice. Whoever thought of putting pumpkin spice in fucking everything ought to be bound and flogged. Needless to say, Amber was no fan and would be happy when November first rolled around. It meant half-price candy and folks would start easing up just a bit on all this pumpkin spice shit. Fuck Halloween. Fuck pumpkin spice. It was almost her turn in line when a small hand tugged on her finger. "Trick or treat," the little boy said. "Ugh, get away," Amber said, and stepped forward to place her order. She felt a finger poke her on the butt and spun around. "Trick or treat," the little boy repeated. "Look, you little turd, where is your mother?" Amber asked angrily. "What's your problem?" Frankie asked. Susie, the cashier, stepped aside for her boss. "Oh, nothing much. I'm so sick of all this Halloween shit. The pumpkin spice bullshit. This coffee shop used to be great because it wasn't a fucking Starbucks or Dunkin', but I'll be damned if you fuckers didn't go ahead and sell out. I hate all this pumpkin spice bullshit and snot-nosed brats trying to touch my ass. That is my fucking problem." Amber's face was beet red, and she just couldn't stop the spew of venom once it started. The little boy with blue eyes and sandy blonde hair started to cry. "You're a meanie! The Pumpkin Man is gonna get you!" the kid cried out. "Pumpkin Man? Give me a fucking break," Amber said. "Get out of my store and don't come back. Since you hate us so much, go to Starbucks or Dunkin', but you're not welcome here anymore," Frankie shouted. "Fine," Amber said, and turned to leave. There was a tap on her shoulder. It was the boy's father. "Miss, the way you talked to my son was crass and unacceptable. You owe him an apology," the tall man with a dark complexion said. He wasn't angry, but he was serious. Yeah, that ain't gonna fucking happen. You're lucky I don't call the police. The little perv tried to grab my ass," Amber said. She was over it and ready to go. "Okay, so you're going to forego the apology?" asked the man. "Duh," Amber answered and began walking toward the door. The man tapped on her shoulder once more. She turned to let him have it for the final time. He held out his palm and quickly blew orange dust into her face. Amber coughed and gagged. She breathed it in and swallowed a good bit of it. Her eyes burned and she was fiercely rubbing them. What felt like agonizing minutes was only a few seconds when she felt the cool water wash over her face. Frankie was pouring a bottle of cold Dasani over her eyes. It was helping. "Did someone call the cops?" Amber asked. Nobody said a word. Where'd they go?" Amber looked around. The little boy and tall man were gone. She thought about calling the police, but what was the point? She'd go to work, and tomorrow this Halloween horseshit would be over until next year. 10 minutes later. Amber was tapping away on her front teeth with her index finger as she was trying to decide what she wanted from the vending machine. She rolled her eyes when she noticed what was in B7. Pumpkin pie Pop-Tarts. This season couldn't come to an end fast enough. She chose some generic peanut butter crackers and had just enough change in her pocket for a Dr. Pepper to wash it all down. She needed something in her stomach to deal with all the Halloween freaks in the office today. Shelley was a witch. John was a half-assed Frankenstein monster. Chuck was a bargain basement mummy, and Tina, well, she didn't know what the fuck Tina was supposed to be. She had drawn on whiskers, so maybe some kind of a dying cat or something? Just another Halloween at Whitman's Insurance Agency. Chuck and Tina Whitman owned the place, and they were very firm believers in All Hallows Eve. "Another year without dressing up, huh, Amber?" Chuck asked as he held his arms out like a lumbering mummy from movies long, long ago. "Yeah, well, I really couldn't find anything to wear, Mr. Whitman," Amber said. Looking at him made her want to puke. "At least you're consistent. You sure you didn't try a little makeup this morning?" Chuck asked as he pointed at her neck. "You got a little something there. You get one of those pumpkin spice donuts from Frankie's?" "No, Mr. Whitman. Let me go wipe this mess off," Amber said and excused herself from her desk. Thankfully, there was no one else in the restroom. Amber looked in the mirror and she could see the little orange smudge that Mummy Chuck pointed out. She soaked a paper towel sheet with warm water and dabbed at the small spot on her neck. She dried it and took another look. The smudge was still there, so she added a little soap from the dispenser and scrubbed a little harder. She dried it again, and the smudge hadn't gone anywhere. "Fuck," Amber whispered, and tossed the paper towels into the garbage. She'd have to wash the spot away in the shower that night. It was par for the course. She'd have to work all day with that pumpkin orange blotch on her neck. Naturally, it would be pumpkin orange. She took one last look in the mirror and blew a strand of hair out from in front of her face. Amber then went back to her desk. This morning was busy and lunch was fast approaching. Amber was hungry. The crackers and Dr. Pepper weren't quite the breakfast she expected. She fielded quite a few calls and set several appointments for the agents. Some customers came in with their young kids all dressed up. The little fuckers had their trick-or-treat bags, and the Whitmans were more than happy to fill them. To Amber, kids didn't belong in a place of business, even if it was Halloween. She rose from her desk and stretched her arms. Amber was going to take a walk down the block and grab a sandwich from Underground Joe's. That's when one of the kids in the office shouted, "Oh, wow, Mom! Look at her!" He shouted and pointed at Amber. "I don't think she's finished her costume yet. Stop pointing, it's not polite," the portly woman said and waved at Amber before pulling her son away by the arm. "What the fuck was that about?" Amber whispered to herself. Then Chuck walked by and stopped cold. "Amber? Have you been getting into the Halloween spirit?" "Looks good so far," Chuck said and made a circle with his finger as he pointed at her neck. Amber's brow furrowed. She noticed the others in the office now looking at her. Tina, the afflicted cat, put her hand over her mouth. That was enough for Amber to hightail it back to the restroom. Amber locked the door behind her and moved quickly to the mirror. She put her hand over her mouth to stifle a scream. "Fuck, fuck, fuck," Amber repeated. It was the only word her brain would register. The orange smudge had spread, and there was more. The bottom half of her neck was pumpkin orange covered with what appeared to be black spider veins. There was no washing this shit away. Amber took a deep breath and exited the bathroom. She moved quickly to the coat rack and lifted Tina's long black scarf. She wrapped it around her neck and shouted, I'm not feeling well, Mr. Whitman. Going home to lie down." She waved a hand in the air and almost knocked Freddie Caldwell over as she rushed from the building. 15 minutes later. Amber was safely in the confines of her one-bedroom apartment when she immediately removed her clothes and stepped into the shower. She saturated the loofah with soapy water and went to work on her neck. There was no rush of orange and black makeup running down her chest. She scrubbed harder, but nothing was happening. It was as if someone tattooed this shit on her. "Ugh! What the fuck?" Amber screamed. The shower was as hot as she could stand it, and nothing was happening. She pulled the shower curtain and grabbed a towel from a clean stack on the shelf. Amber wrapped her body and opened the bathroom door to let the steam escape. Then she used a dry washcloth to wipe the fogging mirror. Amber almost fainted at what she saw. Not only did the orange and black mess not go away, but it spread even more. Now all of her neck was completely covered to the base of her chin. Amber's heart was racing. Her hands trembled as she attempted to remove her nose ring and quickly gave up on the notion when the scent crept into her nostrils. It was the unmistakable combination of nutmeg, cinnamon, allspice, and ginger. The fucking smell of pumpkin spice. Something else was strange. Amber noticed the color of her eyes were darker. They were a sky blue before, but now they were almost like dark pools of water. This was fucked up on so many levels. Then it hit her. The man at Frankie's did this shit. He poisoned me, Amber said out loud before thinking, what the fuck did that kid say? The pumpkin man will get you. Amber got dressed as she opened the Uber app on her phone. She was going to the emergency room. 34 minutes later. It was mid-afternoon and Augusta University Hospital's ER was crazier than usual. As soon as the Uber driver dropped her off, Amber knew this was going to be a wasted trip. The ER waiting room was almost to capacity. A lot of them were snotty-nosed little shits sniffling and coughing all over the place. There are prompt cares and pediatricians for this bullshit, is what Amber thought as she stepped to the front desk. The pretty young nurse smiled as Amber approached. Wow, that's some great makeup. You going to a Halloween party? No, Amber replied. She wanted to look in a mirror. Trick-or-treating with some kids then? No. How long is the wait? Amber asked. Well, the lobby's full. You can fill out this paperwork if you want to wait. The young nurse held a clipboard with a small stack of paper attached. You're looking at a 2 to 3 hour wait. We got a lot of sick kids today. Fuck, Amber replied and waved off the clipboard. Amber walked away. The nurse smiled and greeted the next person in line. 17 minutes later. Amber shuffled back into her apartment and went into her bedroom. She turned on the light and stood in front of the full-length mirror attached to the door. Half of her face was now covered in pumpkin orange and black to just under her nose. Amber stared in horror as the image was starting to present itself. "Oh my God!" she screamed. The jagged black lines around her mouth formed the unmistakable grin of a jack-o'-lantern. The smell was back too, and it was driving her bananas. It was as if her nose were made of pumpkin spice. It was sickening and caused her to convulse. She scurried to the bathroom and dry heaved. After a couple of minutes, she calmed down and caught her breath. The smell was still there, but the compulsion to puke her guts out was gone for the moment. Amber laid in her bed and sobbed. She cried herself to sleep. 4 hours later. Amber awoke with a pounding headache. The room was dark except for the television. One of the Halloween movies was playing and she really didn't give two shits which one. As far as she was concerned, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. She placed her hands on her temples and was all but convinced that she just woke up from one of the most vividly terrible nightmares she's ever had. But the smell was still there, and she didn't think it possible. It was even more prominent. This stoked the fear in her like a blow poker to a dying fire. Amber turned on the light and fell to her knees in front of the mirror. "Dear God!" she screamed. Her face had completely transformed into that of a jack-o'-lantern. It wasn't makeup or parlor tricks. It was 100% her face. Her eyes were oval-shaped, and so dark the iris blended with her pupils. The same type of black, jagged lines around her mouth now surrounded her eyes and nose. Everything else was pumpkin orange, with streaks that looked like ominous roads on a map. Her shoulder-length hair was black, with orange highlights. What did he do to me? Amber was panicking. She should go back to the hospital, but how could they fix this? She could go back to Frankie's. Maybe the tall man came back with his kid. She could give the apology he asked for, and maybe he could fix it. That was her best shot. She didn't want to go out looking like this, but it was Halloween, so she shouldn't turn too many heads. Amber retrieved her phone and headed out. Frankie's was, after all, within walking distance. 9 minutes later. There were oohs and ahs when Amber stepped into Frankie's. A line of kids were waiting their turn at the candy table. Susie Reynolds was dressed as a witch. It was one of those Dollar General costumes, but Susie filled it out rather nicely. Amber pushed to the front of the candy line. Susie didn't recognize her at all. Until she spoke. "Susie, you seen that kid from this morning?" Amber asked. "Amber? That you? Wow, your makeup is amazing." Susie was thoroughly impressed. "Shut it, Susie. The kid from this morning, have you seen him?" Amber asked in desperation. "No," Susie replied, and, because of Amber's bitchiness, added, "Didn't Frankie tell you not to come back?" "Come on, Susie, I need to find the kid and his dad. Let me sit in the back for a little while in case they come in. Please, Susie." "Okay, but if Frankie shows up, I'm not covering for you," Susie replied as she grabbed a fistful of candy for the next kid. Thank you, Amber said before taking a seat in a booth facing the entrance. She was tapping her fingers nervously on the table. She kept her eyes on the front door, hoping against hope for the kid and his dad to return. Amber glanced at her phone to check the time, and an immediate lump formed in her throat. Her wrists were pumpkin orange. Amber was wearing gray sweats, so most of her body was covered up. She quickly glanced around, held her breath, and took a quick peek down her shirt. Amber was on the verge of breaking down. Her entire torso was pumpkin orange. No. Amber was trembling uncontrollably. The kids, along with their parents in the candy line, started to notice her. Then, a line of her very own started. "Oh, wow! You're a pumpkin! Look, Mama, she's a pumpkin!" The little red-headed girl dressed like Raggedy Ann shouted. "Where's the rest of your costume?" she asked as she looked over the gray sweats. Amber gave the little girl a nervous smile and squirmed in her seat. Come on, please," Amber mumbled. "You look so cool. You want some of my candy?" a little boy asked. Amber smiled and shook her head no. There was now a full-fledged crowd of kids in front of her. Half of the kids were in the candy line and the other half were in the line to see the pumpkin lady. "Please come, please," Amber whispered. The kids gawked, and most of the parents were impressed with the detail of the makeup. Almost an hour passed, and Amber was just about to leave and head back to the ER when she heard a familiar voice. "Trick or treat." He was wearing a pumpkin mask, but she immediately recognized the voice. It was the little boy with the blue eyes and sandy blonde hair. "Hey, you want some candy?" Amber grabbed a handful some of the other kids left for her on the table. "Here you go." He held a plastic pumpkin in front of him, and she dropped the candy inside. Look, I want you to know that I'm so sorry I yelled at you today. It was wrong of me and I shouldn't have treated you like that. Please, tell your dad that I'm sorry, Amber said. Tears filled her black eyes. She could tell the little boy was smiling behind his mask. It's okay. Thank you for the candy, he replied and opened his arms for a hug. Amber scooched out of the booth and knelt down. The little boy hugged her around the neck and whispered in her ear, "My daddy is the Pumpkin Man." When Amber stood, the tall man was there. He was behind his son, holding a cup. "Thank you for apologizing to my son. Halloween is his favorite time of year and he gets very excited. Here," the tall man said as he handed Amber a Frankie's cup. "Take this as an acceptance of your apology. Make sure you drink the entire cup. You'll feel like a new woman in the morning. Come on, son. Let's go." The two of them walked out of Frankie's. Amber looked at the cup. It looked like a regular old cup of pumpkin spice latte. She took a sip, and nothing ever tasted better on her tongue. It was hot, but not too hot. Amber drank every single drop. Nothing was left in the cup. She hugged a few more kids before she left Frankie's. She liked the feeling. 1 year later. The line at Frankie's Donuts was almost to the door. By her count, she was in spot 10, and so far, every single person had ordered a pumpkin spice latte or pumpkin spice donuts, or both. Amber waited patiently for her turn to order. Susie smiled as Amber approached. "Nice costume, Amber. Not quite as good as last Halloween, but not bad, girlie," Susie said. Amber was wearing a tight-fitting, sexy witch costume straight from the Dollar General. "Thank you, Susie. I'll be by tonight to see what you're wearing. I'd like a pumpkin spice latte and 24 pumpkin spice donuts for the office." "Okie doke," Susie replied. A smiling Frankie approached the counter. "What a difference a year makes, huh, Amber?" Amber nodded and replied, "Yes, sir. I friggin' love Halloween." And just like that, a somewhat happy ending. You see, tricks and treats really do commingle, and you never know which one you might get. So, thank you so much to Charles Campbell for writing that story just for us here at Weekly Spooky, and I want to say a humongous thank you to our model photographer, because the cover photo for this story was done by the beautiful and talented Elena Morales. Thank you, Elena. You made an incredible pumpkin lady, and I hope you guys enjoyed that story. I feel like that was just the perfect way to kind of get in the mood. I hope you could hear the fall leaves coming down all around you. I hope you could feel the cooler breezes moving in as the seasons change. And speaking of seasons changing, speaking of changing seasons, we're about to enter another month on the Weekly Spooky Patreon, which you can find at weeklyspooky.com. Just click on the Patreon link. If you join up for as little as $1 a month, you help guarantee that we do the show every single week for another 100 episodes, and you get all kinds of exclusive content. This October, there'll be spooky photo sets, some of which are quite sexy. You'll also get early access to a very scary, very eerie horror short film directed by yours truly about the Halloween season, and so much more. Exclusive podcasts, old content, new content to come, so much more. So please, if you can, head over to weeklyspooky.com, click on Patreon, help us make the show even scarier every single week. And speaking of which, I need to say a big thank you to our Patreon podcast boosters, folks who give just a little extra to have their names said on the program. Gino Lyons, Michael aka Sharm, Karen Weemet, Jeff and George Hilton, Craig Cohen, Rob Fields, and Kevin Fry. Well, for this week, my time is up, so for my producer Dan Wilder and my composer Ray Mattis, you stay scared, stay safe, and I look forward to bringing you all the fear you need next Wednesday. Talk at you later.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to find your way back next week. But for now, you are safe. Trust me.